Most people will never understand her. And honestly, that's kind of the whole point. Because when you see a woman who lives alone, who has no partner, no boyfriend, who isn't frantically swiping on apps or counting down to the next date, the first thing most people do is try to figure out what went wrong. What happened to her? What's broken? And I want to talk about that assumption today, because it reveals way more about the people making it than it does about her. Here's what society sees when it looks at a woman like this. It sees a problem to be solved, a sad story with a missing ending, and so it starts diagnosing. She must be lonely. She must have had her heart destroyed by someone. She must have run out of options and is just making the best of a bad situation. She must be waiting, because surely no woman in her right mind would actually choose this. And here's the thing. People need to believe that. They need her to be a victim of circumstance, because the alternative, that she looked at everything society told her a woman's life should look like and just decided no thank you, that alternative is genuinely terrifying to most people. Because if she's fine, if she's actually happy, if nothing is wrong with her, then what does that say about the choices everyone else made? From the time we are little, girls we are taught one story, that they are a puzzle piece, that somewhere out there is the other half that makes them whole, and that their entire job, underneath everything else, underneath the career and the friendships and the personal growth, is to find that person, to be chosen, to be completed. And for a long time, most women live inside that story without even realizing it's a story. It just feels like reality. It feels like the shape of a life. And then, some women, not all of them, but some, start to notice the edges of the frame, start to feel the weight of a narrative that was handed to them before they were old enough to question it. And they start asking, wait, who wrote this? And did I actually agree to it? And when a woman starts asking that question seriously, something shifts. She stops looking outward for the thing that's supposed to complete her, and she starts looking inward at what's actually already there. That's not getting lost. That's the first time she's actually found herself. Now, I want to address the thing people say about her most, because it's the one that bothers me the most. They say she's cold. They say she's closed off. They say something must have happened to make her this way, like her choosing herself is a wound she hasn't healed from yet. She's not cold. She's tired. She is tired in a very specific way that takes a long time to develop and even longer to recover from. She spent years, probably years, in connections where she was doing the majority of the emotional labor, showing up fully, giving everything, managing the feelings of everyone around her, keeping things together, keeping the peace, making herself smaller so other people could feel bigger. And she did it because she cared. Because she's someone who loves deeply and shows up completely. But the people on the other end of that didn't always match it. And at some point, you do the math. At some point, you look at what you're giving and what you're getting back, and something in you just goes, no, not anymore. She didn't lose her ability to love. She raised the standard for what love actually looks like. And the people who can't meet that standard have decided to call that coldness. But that's not coldness. That's clarity. And clarity, after years of confusion, is one of the most powerful things a person can find. Here's the part that most people don't talk about openly, but need to. A woman who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole is genuinely threatening to a lot of people. And I mean that literally, not dramatically, not as an exaggeration. Threatening. Because our entire social structure, the way relationships are built, the way gender dynamics work, the way people attach and bond and stay, a huge portion of it runs on the assumption of female emotional dependency. The idea that a woman is incomplete without a partner, that she needs to be protected, guided, anchored by someone else. And when a woman stands up and just embodies the opposite of that, without making a speech about it, without an agenda, just by living her life, she dismantles something in the people around her. Men who are used to being needed suddenly don't know what their role is. And that's uncomfortable when your sense of self is built around being somebody's hero or provider or answer. When you meet a woman who has already provided all of those things for herself, there's no easy entry point. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, a lot of people just decide she must be the problem. And other women, this is the one that's harder to say, other women can feel it too, because seeing her is like looking in a mirror. And that mirror isn't showing them her life. It's showing them the question they've been avoiding. Am I with my partner because I genuinely love them, or because I'm terrified of what I'd find if I were alone with myself? She doesn't say a word to make anyone ask that question. Her existence asks it for her. There is a specific kind of freedom she has found that I want to try to describe because I don't think it gets talked about accurately. It's not the freedom of someone who has given up. It's not the freedom of someone who has settled into resignation and is calling it peace. It's something else entirely. It's the freedom of someone who went through the hardest version of things. The grief, the heartbreak, the patterns that kept repeating, the moments of being invisible inside relationships that were supposed to see her, and came out the other side. Not bitter, but clear. The silence in her home is not emptiness. I know it looks like that from outside. I know a quiet house reads as lonely life to most people. But for her, it is the first time in a long time she has been able to actually breathe. To not perform, to not manage anyone else's emotions, to just exist in a space that is entirely, peacefully hers. Most people can't sit in silence without immediately reaching for something. Their phone, the TV, another person, anything. Because when the outside noise stops, the inside noise starts. And a lot of people are genuinely terrified of what they'd hear if they stopped running long enough to listen. She stopped running. She turned toward it instead of away from it. And what she found on the other side of that wasn't the emptiness people assume. It was herself. Fully. Finally. Without all the noise. Now, society has a lot of words for a woman like this. Picky, difficult, too independent, unrealistic, arrogant. But here's what I want you to notice about those words. None of them are actually about her. They are all projections. Every single one of them is just someone else's discomfort looking for somewhere to land. Because when someone is genuinely comfortable alone, when they're not performing loneliness, not secretly desperate, not waiting to be rescued, it triggers something in the people around them. Specifically, it triggers the fear of being alone that most people have been running from their entire lives. And instead of looking at that fear and saying, okay, why does her happiness make me uncomfortable? It's easier to decide there's something wrong with her. She's not antisocial. She's not broken. She's not waiting for someone to fix her. She has just genuinely outgrown certain things. The anxious spark that gets mistaken for chemistry, the situationships that look like relationships from certain angles, the performance of modern dating where nobody is actually being honest and everyone is auditioning. She's done with all of it. Not because she gave up on love, because she has too much respect for herself to keep accepting the imitation of it. And here is the thing about her standard that I think gets completely misread. When people say she's too picky, what they actually mean is she won't accept less than she deserves. And the reason that reads as picky is because most people have been negotiating for the basics for so long that expecting them feels extreme. She's not asking for extraordinary. She's asking for honest, consistent, respectful, present. She's asking for someone who has done enough of their own inner work that they can actually show up without needing her to carry them emotionally. And if that's not available, she is completely, genuinely, non-performatively fine staying exactly where she is. That's not a negotiating tactic. That's not playing hard to get. That's just a woman who has learned the difference between being alone and being lonely, and who has discovered that one of those is a problem and the other is actually a gift. And what she's open to, if and when it comes, is so different from what she used to look for. She's not looking for someone to complete her. She's already complete. She's not looking for someone to rescue her from her life because she genuinely likes the life she has built. She's not looking for a missing piece because she doesn't experience herself as missing anything. What she's open to is something much rarer and much harder to find. Two people who are already whole, already doing the work, already at peace with themselves, choosing to share their lives not out of need, but out of genuine desire, not completing each other, expanding alongside each other. That's the difference between needing a crutch to walk and finding someone who can actually keep up with your pace. And until that exists, actually exists, not just shows promising signs, not just feels good some of the time, she's staying exactly where she is, in the home she built, in the silence she earned, in the life she chose. Okay, so here's what I actually want you to take from this. This isn't just a story about some woman you might know. If you've been watching this and something in your chest has been sitting heavy, if something about this felt familiar in a way that's uncomfortable, that feeling is information. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you have been shrinking. Maybe you've been negotiating for things you should never have had to negotiate for, and you've been calling it love because you didn't know what else to call it. And maybe what you're actually craving isn't a better relationship. Maybe what you're craving is the relationship she has with herself. The one where she stopped waiting for someone else to tell her she was enough and just decided she was. Without proof, without permission. That's available to you. Not at the end of some long journey, not after you've fixed everything that's wrong with you. Right now, in the middle of wherever you are. Being whole isn't something you find with someone else. It's the home you build inside yourself. And nobody can hand it to you. But nobody can take it away from you either. Once you build it, it's yours. Share this with a woman who needs to hear it today. You probably already know exactly who that is.